In this video, we're going to look at properties of exponents. So first, some key terms. The first one we're going to look at is what's called the base. So the base is the number or a variable associated with an exponent. So here is our exponent. So that makes this the base. Okay. The exponent is the number above the base. It's repeated multiplication. So if we have x to the n power, if I say x squared, that is x times x, repeated multiplication. A couple of things are exponent is also called the index. So x to the nth power. This is also called the index. And then in Britain, exponents, this whole unit would be called indices. So if you need to look up some videos to help you and are not finding what you're looking for, looking up exponents, or it keeps coming up indices, that's why. They are one and the same thing. So the first property we're going to look at is what's called the identity property. Okay, so the identity property is just like the identity properties we looked at in the previous lesson, and that says anything raised to the power of 1 is itself. So x to the 1 is x. That's the identity property. The same is true if it's bigger. X plus 5 to the first is itself. That's the identity property. Next property we're going to look at is the zero property. The zero property says any base raised to the 0 power will evaluate as 1. So x to the 0 power is always 1, no matter what. So if we look at our example here, specifically the second one, 3x squared times y to the 0 power, y to the 0 power doesn't become 0, it becomes 1, so we're just left with 3x squared. Next property to look at is the negative exponent property. The negative exponent property says that if the base and the exponent are not 0, you can rewrite as a fraction and have a positive base. So what that says is x to the negative nth power is equal to 1 over x to the nth. Okay, you can see some examples there of how that would work out. If we look at the second one specifically, m is to the negative second power, so only this changes. The whole thing doesn't become a fraction, just the part that is raised to a negative exponent. Next, we're going to look at multiplying exponents. So when you multiply exponents, and the bases are the same, we add them. Okay, so if we look at here, we have a to the m and a to the n. Well, they have the same base of a, so we move that base over, and then we add their exponents, m plus n. Don't pay attention to that just yet. Okay, so if we look at our examples, if we have m to the third times m to the fifth, the bases are the same, and then we just add the exponents, 3 plus 5. Same is true if you have a bunch of exponents multiplied. X is the same as x, so you add its exponents. Y is the same as y, so you add its exponents. Next is power of an exponent, which says if you have a base raised to an exponent raised to another exponent, you multiply the exponents. So if we look at our example, we have a to the m, and that whole thing is raised to the nth power. So we just multiply the exponents. Let's look at what that looks like with some numbers. So we have 2 to the third to the fifth power. Now we could do 2 to the third, which would be 8, and then we could raise that to the fifth power. Or we multiply our exponents. So 3 times 5 gives us 15. So that should be 8 to the fifth should be the same as 2 to the 15th. Now something careful to look at is the second example. Is when you have coefficients involved, like we have with this 3. What this square here means is we have 3x to the fourth times 3x to the fourth. So we're also, in essence, squaring the 3. So that's where the 9 comes from. And then we multiply 4 times 2 to get x to the 8th. Or if we look at it this way, we're going to add the exponents. So we have 3 times 3. And then we have x to the 4 plus 4. You need to be careful, because what this does not mean is if you have 3 plus 4x squared, you cannot take this square and distribute it. This is not equal to 9 plus 16x squared. That is not the case. So remember, squared, or when you have an exponent outside of parentheses, it's repeated multiplication. So you have those terms inside the parentheses however many times the exponent says. So be careful with the power of an exponent property. Power of a quotient property. Power of a quotient property is when we're dividing and raising a fraction to an exponent. So what this property tells us to do is that if we're raising a fraction or a rational number to an exponent, it's the same as raising both the numerator and denominator to that exponent. So if I have 1/3 squared, that is the same as 1 squared over 3 squared. So power of a product, okay, is if we have multiplication raised to a power, it's the same thing as raising each part of it to the same power. We saw that a little bit earlier when we were looking at the power of an exponent property. Okay, and again, this only works for products, not in between terms. So if we look at this last example, xy cubed, that is the same as saying x cubed times y cubed. Dividing exponents. Dividing exponent says that if we're dividing like bases, that's the important part, we subtract the exponents. So x to the m over x to the n is x to the m minus n power. Okay. If you want, you can also think of them as negative exponents. So we could think of our example here as x to the m times x to the negative n. And then you add, bases are the same, and you add the exponents. So that's that's when we're dividing exponents. Last but not least, before we get to some practice problems, is adding exponents. So when we add exponents, there's no special rules. We just have to follow the order of operations, and we can only combine like terms. So 7 squared plus 2 squared is not 9 to the 5th power. That is not the case. We have to do 7 squared and then 2 to the 3rd and then add them together. So again, adding exponents, just follow the order of operations and only combine like terms. So I'll work this first one through, and then we'll leave the others to practice with in class. So we've got 2x cubed. Now this next one, we have power to the power. So this is the same as x to the 4th times 2. So it's power of a power divided by 8x to the 11th. So the next we look at multiplying exponents, which says 2 times the bases are the same, so it's x. We're going to add the exponents. So this is going to be 3 plus 8, because 4 times 2 gives us 8. So this is going to simplify to 2x to the 11th divided by 8x to the 11th. And then we look at actually dividing exponents that says we subtract. So this is x to the 11th minus 11. So that goes away because this becomes 1 because it's x to the 0 power. So we're left with 1/4 is what that one simplifies to. So in this video, we looked at the properties of exponents and how to rewrite them.